basic circular washer. Keep in mind that these washers can be floral shaped or whatever shape, but today we're going to make a circular little washer for the center of our fabulous ring here. So eyeball what size you want. You know, you don't want it that big. You want it to fit kind of in that little spot there, so one of these will work. You need a piece of metal and something to mark with. You can use a scribe to do this instead of a pen. I have a little trick that I use to make sure that my lines are straight across. On these circle templates, there's little black lines on each quarter for you to help you to find center on it. So most people just make a little line, a little dash like that, but it's very difficult to know exactly where to rule it. So there's a system where you make little V's on each of the points. Can you see that? And then what you do is you take your straight edge and run it between the points of the V's, and theoretically that will give you a more accurate center, unlike the one I just drew because that one was not on. So I'm going to eyeball it. Nothing ever works out in demos, I've found, and I don't even get upset anymore. So at this point, you're going to go ahead. We got to dap the center here, and we want to dap it kind of hard because we're going to dome this. And when we dome it, we might lose the center mark, and this is important because we need to drill out this center, but not until after this is sawn out. At this point, if you have a hole punch, you can use that. Instead of sawing it, it's up to you. I have a pre-cut one here that we're gonna use. Come back here, Igor. Which I need to re-center punch because I smashed it with a hammer. Alright, oh, I put the cap back on. Those things cost good money, I tell you what. Alright. Divot. Now, you can leave it plain like this, or you can texture it with hammers. Use a ball peen, make little divots. This will show up, the pattern will show up more when you patina it with liver or sulfur. You can also use the wedge shape on the riveting hammer. Just try not to hit your fingers. Or you can do both, like I'm doing here. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into my little dapping block, and boy, it is hot in here. I am not used to this heat. We have winter and then we go right into summer up here in Northern California, and then the fog comes in and winter starts all over again. Okay, so I'm going to pick this one, just a nice gentle curve, and I'm not going to hammer too hard. If you have wooden punches, it's better. They won't mar your metal. But I'm too lazy to go get mine right now. So you don't want to hammer this too much or you'll take all your pattern out. And this is just put a gentle curve on this so that it'll fit a little better in our inside of our little donut here. It'll go down further when we put the rivet in. So now I'm going to go off and I'm going to drill this center hole with our same drill bit that we use for everything, remember. And, one very important thing when you are drilling the center hole in this, if you are drilling it, you can also use a hole punch for this, is you need to use a pair of pliers that have a serrated edge on the inside to get a hold of this. You should never hold this with your hands. Anything that's really tiny and a rotary tool will spin and cut your fingers. So start with your smaller drill bit first. Hold real tight with this because it'll have a tendency to spin. I'll wiggle it around a little here. Dull as dirt. And then you switch to your bigger one. You might have to move your little pliers over. I have this little tiny hole in my desk I keep drilling in. Pretty soon there's not going to be any desk left. I'll be working with it, the whole thing will fall on the floor. So this is how you drill out your center hole. Take your time, get a good grip on it, and the next time I see you, we will be putting our ring together. So I successfully did not cut my fingers off. I have a little disc. Now we're going to assemble all our elements. I have our tubing, and I'm going to just put these together just to show you the concept. So I think we made a ring sickle. So what we're going to have to do is we have to cut this tubing to size. I'm going to show you two different types of tube cutters. This one is a really nice one. You want a tube cutter that has a narrow slot in here. If there's too much room, the blade wiggles back and forth and your cuts will not be straight. So it's really important to not get those really... There's one out there with a red handle that's made in India or something, and it's just really poorly made. This one is a much nicer one. I think they carry a less pricier one than this now than when I originally bought this. There is also this little thing, which is I think like $12–15 for holding tube for sawing. Since it's a little wider in here, it's not going to be as accurate as this one. You see the difference in the groove where the blade goes. So I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to show you how to measure the tubing, and then I'm going to saw the tubing out. So let's go right over here, producer darling. So what we're looking for is approximately 1 millimeter hanging out of the bottom, which I'm trying to do. By the way, we just found out it's 102 in the shade here. No wonder I'm sweating. Probably have a heart attack right in front of you. Okay, that's a little high. Okay, so about that much sticking out, which is about 1 millimeter. A little there. And then on this side, we're going to mark the same. We're going to mark about 1 millimeter. Now remember, this is sticking up a little bit, so we're going to cut it a little tighter. I'm going to make it even a little less. So I'm just making a rough mark there, and that's where I'm going to saw out my tubing. Now there's two things on annealing tubing. Yes, annealing tubing does make it easier to spread the metal around the stone, but when you're working on a piece that has a really long tube in it, what happens is the tube, if it's annealed, will bend, and you'll end up with an entirely lopsided piece. So for these shorter ones, go ahead and anneal them, but on a longer tubing piece, I would not anneal it. I would use work harden. It might be a little tougher for you to hammer it down, but you're going to be less dissatisfied with the end product. So I'm going to take this apart now, and I'm going to show you how to put it in this little sucker. I have a little cutout here, and this didn't come with this handle. I made this wonky, weird thing, so it sits in here. And find your mark, and then this little sucker comes back like that to hold it in place. I'm going to line this up between the two cut marks, hold my little handle down, grab me a saw. See if I can do one-handed. I doubt it. Maybe. One-handed saw. Woohoo! And then I'm just going to come in and cut it. And they always fall into my lap, so wear an apron. Oh, but the other one fell on the floor. Ah. Alright, so pick the tubing out of your lap. Oh. And then we're going to go over and we're going to put this thing back together again. By the way, I hope you remember to take the burrs off the back of your washer. And this also should look pretty too. If it's all raggedy looking, clean it up. This needs a little bit here. I'm going to hit it with my... Be right back. Don't worry, I'm coming back. Here I am. Okay, so now I'm going to put it together. Again, where's Igor? 102, and we have the air conditioner off. Yes, we are insane. Okay, so there we are, and this is where it gets tricky. I've got a little vise here with a dapping, a dap. I'm going to spread this ring open because I have to be able to put this in, and I'm going to stick it right under the bottom of the tube, like so. Excuse me, sir. Now you know the producer's a guy. And here's my plumb bob, which hopefully won't go through. And I need my hammer. Remember, use a hammered, you don't care about the face. It's going to get scratched up if you're hitting steel. Now I'm just going to kind of gently, this is like a balancing act, as you can see. What I'm trying to do is flare the top of this tubing without my whole thing falling apart. Okay, see we have a little flare there. Of course everything came apart. I'm going to push it back together. We're going to turn it over now. Do the same on the other side. If I can get the fat thing in there. You need to go on a diet. Hopefully, it's not very even. Hopefully we've got enough of a flare here to keep this from falling out at this point. Okay, now we're going to go into a different kind of punch, a little more flat. And actually, I bought these really beautiful tube rivet tools I'm going to use. Going to the second one now. By the way, this is tough. I think I'm going to switch to a bigger depth. I feel like I'm in a circus on that one. It's amazing some of the contortions you go into doing some of these rivets, because they're hard to reach places. You've got dents, divots, all kinds of stuff you've got to take into account. Yeah, that's a little better. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing it on a dome surface is I don't want it to flatten out yet. I want it to flare instead of flatten. So see, we're starting to get that curve that I want. And this, a bigger vise would probably help a whole heck of a lot, but I have little mini me over here. All right. Probably would help if I could stand up too, but I'd kill the producer and that would not be good. Okay. So now we have a little more flare, and then we're going down the line to the next one. So if you don't have these at home, try to replicate you get the concept, right? You start with a deep flare, and then a medium, and then a less, and then almost a flat flare there. So the concept is you're slowly spreading this flat. And it's not easy. It's not impossible. It just takes a little balancing. Well, we are almost there, kids. And then I can take it off this stupid thing and put it onto a flat surface. Alright, I am flared enough. I am a flared woman. I'm going to go onto a flat surface here. Now, a lot of people have a horn on a little small desktop thing. What's it called?
Anvil.
Big anvil, yeah. You could use that. I have this little mini one that I like. And now I'm going to use the more flattened surface to flatten down the rivet, and then we will be done with this thing. Trying to keep it on center, which is always fun. And then I'm going to flip it over. Now see, I can't hammer it on this now, so I have to go back up here for this. Because it's dented, you know, it goes in. This doesn't have any bubbles to hammer on, so. Oh, God. If we had one more arm, we would be so talented. How am I looking? All right. So we got that nice and flat. Isn't that pretty? And then this one is almost perfect. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. It's just a little wompy there. That one side needs a little hammering. I got to stand up though to do that. Sorry. Just going to hammer more on that side. And if it doesn't come out perfect, one of the things I tell people is it's handmade. So now all we got to do is squeeze our ring back together. What I did on this, since I forgot to roller print the metal, was I took a little, where's my scribe? My desk was all clean before you people got here. Just take a little scribe like this or something scratchy and go ahead and scribble all over the outside. You know, kind of dig in there, make a pattern. I made another one of these with this on and it looked really cool, so it matches the swirls that I made in the polymer clay, so it's a really nice touch. So I would go ahead at this point and liver and sulfur this and wipe off the high areas, and you got yourself a cute little ring. Ta-da! That'll be $275, please. Thanks for coming. I hope you learned something. This is a very, very hot Nancy L.T. Hamilton signing off and putting on the air conditioner. There it goes.